operating room nurse, which is where I spent a large chunk of my 34-year career. I saw lots of different things. You in OR, you bring your patients in, you make them comfortable, you hold their hands, you talk to them as they go, as anesthesia puts them to sleep, and then you begin to get them ready for surgery. So on this night that I remember, I had gotten a call. It was later in the evening, so there's just a few teams working in the OR later in the evening. And I got a call that there was a young boy that we needed to do hand surgery on. He had had an accident and we needed to do repair his hand. So I said, okay. And we finished up the case we were doing. And I said, just bring the patient to the holding area and I'll go out and I'll talk to the patient. I'll talk to mom out there. And so they're like, okay. So we had transporters who brought the patient to the holding area. And I went out to see the patient when we were ready. And I remember looking at the little boy in the bed and thinking, oh my gosh, my son was very close to the same age as this little boy. And this little boy, if I remember right, he was 8 years old. And his mom is sitting next to the bed and she's holding his hand. And you could tell she had that universal, I am so worried about my little boy, mom look. So I introduced myself and I said that I was Ruth and I would be the nurse in the room with her son. And she started to speak to me in German. And I thought, oh boy, I don't speak German, first of all. And this was an Amish family, which we had a lot of Amish families in our community. So I was familiar with that. But you could tell mom was distraught. Her little boy's hand had gotten caught in a piece of machinery. So we needed to repair it. Of course, it's all wrapped up in bandage and towel and whatever, still from home. And mom is just distraught. And I thought, okay, Ruth, you don't speak German, but you speak mom. And I could tell that she was very worried. So I went over and I just softly spoke to her and I said, I will take care of him. And I put my hand on the little boy's shoulder and I said, I will take care of him as if he's my own. And the mom looked at me and you could just tell the relief coming to her face. And I just kind of reached my arm out and she nodded her head and I gave her a big hug and I said, it's okay. And I pointed to him, the little boy again, and mom gave him a big hug and a big kiss. And I said to the transporter who had brought the patient there, I said, would you please take mom to the waiting room? And I looked at her again and I went like this and I said, I will take care of him and I'll see you shortly. And so it was just that connection as a mom. It's like I was the nurse, but I also first and foremost was the mom and realized how devastating it was for this mother to see her son go off to surgery. And she knew that his hand was injured pretty badly, and it was. It took us a couple hours to get his hand repaired. But afterwards, I went out to the waiting room myself. And I didn't normally do that. Normally, the physicians went out and would tell the parents all about the surgery and what had happened. And so this time I decided to go out once I took the little boy to the recovery room. And I said, to the girls in the recovery room, I'll go get mom. She's in the waiting room. And then I'll bring her back because we allowed parents of younger children to be in the recovery room. And it was later at night. There weren't a ton of patients in the recovery room. So I went out, got mom, and her face, I don't want to say it lit up, but at least it was a familiar face. She knew my face. And so I took her hand and I took her back to the recovery room so she could be with her little boy and be there when he woke up. Because again, he spoke mostly German, just a little bit of English at 8 years old from going to public school, but wanted them to be together. So when he woke up, she was there and he saw a familiar face that would make him feel comfortable as well. But yeah, just that connection as a mom and being the nurse that was there to help this mom feel comfortable. It's just one of my very personal, memorable moments as a nurse.